Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Flynn, and I'm here with
Scott Lang.
And we are the Band Dads. Here to bring you a podcast about something that we care very dearly about, which is music education and band.
Some of you are here because you want to learn about all things band. Some of you are here because you want to see a train wreck. And the answer is yes to both of those. We don't care why you're here. We're going to answer all the questions. We're going to say the things you're thinking. We're going to debunk all the myths.
Yep. This is the Band Dads Podcast.
The podcast by and for confused band parents.
Nice. You said the tagline. Yes.
Because, people are starting to go into camp pretty quick here.
Yeah. That's I was going to kind of ask you that question at some point, and I don't want to lose it, but I know we start when we do because of our school year and when it starts, but what's the average time you think that people are?
So that's a great question. So band camps typically start 3 weeks in advance of school.
Okay.
And I will tell you, barring the East Coast, and the East Coast typically has a Labor Day start. And they do that sometimes by legislative law in order to protect revenue from theme parks.
You know where they do that?
Virginia is one of them. South Carolina, North Carolina.
Farmington, Maine.
They got to protect the earmuff.
Anyway.
And typically the reason why they do 3 weeks is districts have become more sticklers about band directors attending professional development.
Oh, I see.
Typically when I taught, they were like,
that's when
you're
that's
at
occurring?
band camp, you don't need to be at any of the teacher days.
Okay,
and now
okay.
they're becoming more and more strict about, for liability reasons, training reasons.
Okay.
And you can understand, in teacher training, when I went there,
yeah.
And Chris, I'm not trying to be political. I'm not yanking your chain. When I was teaching, teacher training was about literacy, and here's our new policy and procedure, and here's the update to the dress code. Now it's wound packing, trauma protection,
wow,
disaster preparedness.
That's sad.
And now most teachers, and I mean most, are getting training on how to pack trauma wounds and how to prepare for active shooter drills.
So I guess I could see both sides of it, because it's not like, let's be honest, I guess it's not like that violence didn't necessarily exist when you taught, just not at the same volume per se.
Not even close.
So certainly, I guess I see the benefit of them teaching those things, but yeah, that's kind of sad that.
But that's what teachers are doing for professional development now. It's not getting better at their craft. It's getting better at survival skills.
What do you think the effect of that is at the end of the day? You know what I mean? What are we missing as a result?
I would think preparing for trauma would be traumatic for me. If I had to spend a day learning how to pack a wound and then go teach a child in the afternoon that I might have to potentially use that training on, I don't know how I would respond to that.
That's a really good point.
But to the point is, typically you spend the week before school begins in teacher training, and you spend the 2 weeks prior to that in band camp. So with most schools now, and I mean with the exceptions of the outliers on the far East Coast where they start after Labor Day, most schools now are starting at the latest in mid-August, August 15th, August 16th.
Gotcha.
So you back up to August 7th for the teacher training, and then you back up 2 weeks to July 18th, 19th, 20th. That's when most groups are starting their actual band camp. So ours is an outlier because we start school on July 15th. So we do band camp
in Arizona where it's 120. Yeah, that makes sense.
No one clearly looked at a calendar when they made that decision.
No.
But band camp season is upon us, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to season 2 of the Band Dad podcast.
Episode 1. At some point, I don't know if we should continue to say episode numbers because, we're going to be eternal, right? We're just going to live on in eternal infamy.
Have you not looked at me? Does any part of me look eternal to you?
I mean,
paternal? Maybe.
All right. At some point, this is just going to go on in perpetuity. So we're just going to have to drop the episode. But anyway, yes. Season 2, episode 1
of the Band Dads. I'm Scott Lang, and he's
Chris Flynn.
So let's talk about band camp. And like we talked about in the preview episode, we didn't get this chance before because we started the podcast in March.
We did. We started during indoor season.
And I've always believed this, one of the beautiful things of not just band, but one of the beautiful things of being in the public school setting is that you get a fresh redo every year. There are very few things in the world in which you get a complete, fresh restart and redo.
That's a fair point.
Every year.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how bad the last marching band season went or how good the last marching band season went.
Okay.
That everyone's got to start from scratch, and we all start at the same place, and we start at band camp.
Yeah.
So let's talk about band camp.
Okay.
There are different types of band camp. Do you know that, Chris?
I did not. I only have experience with one.
There's basically 3 different types of band camps. There's the in-school, non-immersive band camp where you go for a couple hours a day, every day for maybe 5 days. You take the weekend off and then you go another 3-4 days and then you start school. I call it the non-immersive in-house band camp. Make sense?
Yeah. What's the purpose of that though? What do you?
Well, I think it depends on what your goal is for marching band. You got to remember, Chris, that in the Northwest there is no competitive marching band. The purpose of band camp is to learn 7 stand tunes so you can play it. And or if you're in a small community band in which you're not in a competitive circuit, you're just there to support the football team, or you're in a competitive circuit but you're in the small circuit. Because let's be honest, you can teach drill a lot faster. You can teach fundamentals a lot faster. You can teach concepts a lot faster when there's only 28 kids to teach it to versus 280 kids.
That's a good point. So, because you're, again, with my blinders on, I only know what we know in my program. So, yeah, I guess
and I would call that our program the immersive in-school camp.
Okay.
And so the point of that is to give you the experience as if you were traveling out of town. So you're going to be there 12 hours a day. You're going to eat all your meals there. You're going to get very little sleep. There's going to be an entire immersive experience with the exception of you're going to sleep in your own bed.
Gotcha.
And then there's the third type of camp, which is the travel out of town band camp.
Okay. That's fairly common here too, isn't it? Because of the weather and don't...
Believe it or not, it's more common in Arizona than probably any other place. And a lot of it is because of the weather, but a lot of it is also because of proximity. Like we can spend 90 minutes on a school bus and be in the pine trees in the forest.
True. Yes.
We can spend 2 hours on a school bus and be at 8,000 feet and in the side of a mountain.
True.
If you're in Idaho, if you're in Iowa in a cornfield, it's going to take you 15 hours on a school bus to get to that same scenario.
Gotcha.
And so a lot of it is, yes, a result of the oppressive heat that is Phoenix, Arizona, but some of it is just the convenience of opportunity.
That makes sense, yeah.
And I will tell you, having taught 2 of the 3, an immersive in-camp experience, an in-school experience, and an out-of-town experience, there's something special about getting the kids out of town.
I was going to say, do you see benefit from one versus the other?
Oh, absolutely. And not only do you get the time on task, not only do you get the relief from the heat, but you get the isolation from distractions. That's distractions at home, distractions of friends, distractions of technology.
Yeah, okay.
And so you get a completely immersive experience in which you get to shape every experience that child has 24 hours a day for anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 to 7 days.
I would imagine that the main reason that somebody would, I guess, gatekeep from having that experience is probably just cost related. Like why wouldn't everybody do it then? How much difference do we see in terms of like financial impact for having a travel away camp versus doing
I think it's one of 3 things. It's cost, it's convenience, or it's cultural.
Okay.
You know, I can't say this authoritatively, but I think if you went to Florida, you'd be hard pressed to find a band that travels anywhere for band camp. Mm-hmm. So culturally, in that part of the country, that just isn't a part of their lexicon.
That makes sense.
It's not a part of their experience.
Sure.
Where you can't go 15 minutes in Phoenix, Arizona without finding a band that doesn't travel out of town for band camp. So I do think it has to do with the economics, the convenience, and the cultural landscape of music education in that space. And I would also say a lot of it depends on the logistics of your group.
Okay.
Like if you're a Texas marching band of 340 kids, finding an out-of-town experience is a lot more difficult than if you've got 60 kids.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if you're transporting the equipment of 2 sousaphones and 3 marimbas, it's a lot different than transporting 60 marimbas, a soundboard, 14 vibraphones, and 12 sousaphones.
That's all true. That's
so the reason I share all that is because regardless of what type of experience that your child is having at band camp, that there are different types of camps that meet the different needs of different groups and different locales and different experiences.
Sure.
But they're all striving to achieve one thing, which is to build a marching band.
Okay.
So now your daughter has been through, and your son is now entering into his first year at camp.
Yes.
So having had those experiences, what's the purpose of band camp, Chris?
What is the purpose of band camp, huh? I would say on the rough surface, my understanding of band camp is to, and again, I'm gonna be a little naive here. I'm gonna let's say before I spent time at band camp last year myself, I would assume that the purpose of band camp is just to start to learn and prepare them for whatever marching band show they're doing that fall. That would have been my assumption. Going a little bit deeper and spending time at band camp and watching some of those activities, it's definitely seems to be more about, I think, establishing the culture of your band more than anything else. It might be the work ethic. It might be the stand tunes. It might be just the way that they practice, the way that they rehearse. It may be, putting your new leadership group to the test to start to give them the responsibilities to see how they kind of manage your band. But at least so that's kind of my main takeaway is it starts to establish the culture for what your band and your season is going to look like. And it also, I think, helps set expectation on the kids of what's expected of them in that process as well. And it's kind of high level, but that's what I would say.
Well, you're spot on because you've experienced it before. I think the two takeaways is, number one, you're teaching them how to learn, and that it's not just information that we're processing, but it's how we process it. Which
is a good point. And I'm glad you say that. And it's, again, sometimes when you say things, they seem like very simple and obvious, but by the time a kid gets to high school, you would think that they wouldn't need that, right? They should be a skilled enough musician to already to just know how to do those things. So I appreciate the way you say it because it provides a little context of, no, this is why we do it this way. So anyway, you can continue, but I just want parents to understand, don't assume that this is being done because the band director thinks your kid doesn't know how to do it already. That's not why.
No, and what's really cool, we talked about it a little bit in season 1, and you should go back and listen to that episode in which we talk about, it's such an incredible experience because taking your daughter, for example, she already knows how to march, but she's going to learn how to march again, isn't she?
She is.
She already knows how to hold the horn, but she's going to learn how to hold the horn again, isn't she?
Yes.
She already knows how to play, but she's going to learn how to play again, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing that, it's role modeling.
Yes,
is that
that's right.
When your child spends 4 years in a marching band, they're having 4 different experiences at band camp. One is processing information. Their first year, they're just overwhelmed with the processing of information,
right?
Processes and protocols.
Yeah.
In year 2, what they're learning how to do is master those processes, protocols, and parts of information. In other words, it's not just about surviving, which is what year 1 is, but it's about mastering those concepts. I'm no longer a beginning marcher. I'm no longer a beginning musician. I'm no longer a beginner or a novice at reading drill. I'm actually mastering these concepts now.
Right.
But then in year 3, they become a teacher of those concepts.
Yeah.
And then they're now breaking down those concepts, not just for themselves, but they're breaking them down for other people. And then year 4, they become leaders of an organization.
They are the role models.
So what makes that incredible is that you think about this, that we take a senior who may be an all-stater, who may have mastered that concept, who may have marched drum corps, and we're going to take them back to here's how you stand.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that. We're going to take the very best down to the very most basic. And that's where we pick up the beginners.
Yeah.
And we walk them through step by step an escalation process in which we take the seniors down to freshmen so that we can lift the freshmen up to be like seniors.
Yeah.
And all of that happens. All of that begins at band camp.
Yeah.
So it is cultural.
Yeah.
It's about teaching kids what the expectations are and what the norms are and what the standard behaviors are. But it's teaching kids to learn how to learn. To learn that when I'm asked to do something, I do it the first time.
Right. Sure.
That when I do something, I do it to the very best of my ability. And maybe I'll share a little bit later, but when my son went through his first camp, and it was the hottest summer on record, we talked about that.
Yep.
And he talked about, Dad, why are we doing this drill? Why are we doing this music? I don't understand it. And I said, you're not learning drill. You're not learning music. You're learning grit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're learning determination.
Yeah.
You're learning teamwork.
Right.
Those are the things that you're learning how to learn those things. And then you can take those lessons and apply them for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
But here's what I think is interesting. And I don't have the answer for this. And I'd be curious to hear what our listeners say. But I think that's what band camp used to be about.
What do you mean by that?
I can't help but wonder if the competitive nature of the activity has taken that from being learning cultural norms and learning behavioral norms and team building and bonding.
Interesting.
And leaned it more into it's 10 extra days to rehearse.
Interesting.
It's 10 earlier days I can start the drill.
Yeah.
It's 10 extra days with the music.
Yeah.
And, every year we see these bands achieve greater and greater and greater things.
Right.
And the educator in me wants to believe because we're creating greater cultures of excellence and demand and achievement.
Right.
But then there's the part of me that wonders if we're not just cheating a little and using it as extra rehearsal time.
Well, that's a good point. So again, parents, send us a note and let us hear about your experience with band camp or your kids' experience and see if you lean one way or the other in terms of culture versus competition, because I think what Scott's saying is probably true in some aspects. I think we're fortunate because I don't think that that's the case from our program per se. Because I can see those lessons, I can see, and understand what my daughter's taking away, but I do see that influence happening in other places. So I'd be curious to hear. So feedback at banddadspodcast.com. Send us a note, parents. Tell us what your experience has been with band camp and how you feel about that.
It's really interesting because when I was a teacher, there was a local band director named Bill Richardson that I just worshipped and adored. He was a phenomenal teacher. And his bands, we were pretty good where I taught, and we were in the upper echelons. And we're very successfully competitive. And every year I would just be a hair shy of Bill's band. Oh. They would just play a little bit better. Okay. They would march a little bit cleaner. His staff was just a little more experienced. Okay. And I remember Bill telling me that he never handed out a page of drill until the first day of school. Oh. And I thought, if this guy can beat me without handing out drill until August 18th, then maybe handing out drill on August 1st isn't doing me the good I thought that it was.
That's fair, yeah.
And so that's always been kind of a life lesson in my mind is, how do we use that time? Gotcha. Because you're never going to get band camp again. Now, let me explain that. In that you will have the chance to teach drill on August 28th, on September 3rd, on September 17th, on September 28th, on October 4th, on October 12th, but you're never going to get the chance to begin anew. Not ever again.
That's fair.
And that is what I think makes band and band camp so magical. Okay. Is that you get to begin anew every year. Now, here's what I think is really interesting. And I shared this with my son, and he found this to be useless, unimportant, uninspiring trivia, which is what my son finds most of my gibberish. Mathematically speaking, you ready for this, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you finish band camp, your season's halfway done.
Really?
Take the hours.
Okay.
And you take, our group rehearses 9 hours a week, give or take. Okay. You take the time after camp, and I'm just going to use August 1st through November 1st. So you got 3 months, that's 4 weeks, that's 12 weeks. Okay. 12 weeks at 9 hours, that's 118 hours. Add up the hours of last year's camp, and it's, I think, 112 hours. Your season
definitely wouldn't see it that
halfway done.
Right. Even though we go on until early November.
Yeah, and now, keep in mind, when you look at the product in the end of band camp, you're not thinking, God, we're halfway there.
That's a good point. I would not think that. That's a very fair point. I would not think that at all.
But I always used to try and use that with kids to point out the immersive nature of band camp. Okay. That you are putting in more time in 10 or 11 days than you will over the next 10 or 11 weeks.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And so when we look at band camp, when our listeners look at band camp and you deconstruct it, how would you want to spend that time? If you know that 50% of your season is going to be done by, we'll call it August 10th. Yeah. I'm asking Chris Flynn, what would you want to come out of camp with, knowing that 50% of your season is done on August 10th?
I guess I would want, and again, thinking about marching band, because again, I don't necessarily, I'm not a teacher, but I work in professional environments. I would think, again, I guess kind of what I just talked about, I would want to come out of band camp looking at it like a company. I want my culture established, meaning that whatever the vision is for the group, whatever, again, our mission statement is, whatever, our direction is going to be culturally, like I would like to have that established after that point in time, because anything after that is really just revisions. It's just taking what we've built in this time as a culture and applying it to how we do the work.
Okay. Do you remember the definition of culture?
Oh my God. A common set of practices and something, and
a common set of accepted practices, values and beliefs.
Thank you.
And the time and place. Yes. Now, here's what's interesting. So the common set of accepted practices, values, and beliefs for the Basha Band in 2025 will be different than 2024. I can already tell you.
Yeah.
I can already tell you our director has a new mindset. Yep. We have a new drill writer. We have a new music arranger.
Yes.
We have a new assistant director.
We do.
We have a new set of fundamentals. We have a new set of warm-ups. We have a new set of the way we're going to teach drill.
Yep.
Like, it's a seismic shift.
It is.
In just, our kids have been off school for not even 4 weeks yet.
That's true.
And they're coming back to an entire new culture.
Yeah.
So I think when you said that, when we're talking about the culture of the band, we're gonna teach the kids to learn how to learn.
Yeah.
That in this new environment,
that's a good way to say it.
That we're gonna teach you a new way to warm up, and you're gonna learn how to warm up again. You're gonna learn how to do fundamentals again. You're gonna learn to read drill in a different way than ever before.
Yep.
You're gonna learn to sound different than you've ever sounded before.
Okay.
We're gonna learn to rehearse in a different way. Our band camp schedule's completely reimagined than we did before. We're gonna learn how to learn.
Now, in my experience with teenagers especially, they have the ability to be stubborn often. So as a band director, how would
you think that?
How would you overcome?
No, you think I'm being, you think, okay, let me.
Do I think teenagers are stubborn? Is that the question?
Yeah. Well, mine are, but here's what's really interesting.
Yeah.
My wife once said to me something. She said, my kid would be a kid, and I just get so angry. And my next door neighbor would go, "Oh, I'm dropping off Braden. What a sweet boy he is." And I'm like, "Really? Where?" I haven't seen that side of him.
Very familiar with this conversation. Yes.
And my wife said something to me once. She said, "I'm glad they feel comfortable enough to be themselves at home, but know how to behave outside our home."
Okay.
So I would tell you, in the band world, as a band dad,
yeah.
Oh, my kids are stubborn as all get out,
right,
especially my oldest one. God, he knows everything. I don't even know why I'm here. Okay. He's already learned every lesson that there is to learn in life.
There you go.
But when those kids go into a band room, it's yes, sir, no, sir. What can I do more for you, sir?
Gotcha.
And children are generally way better for their band director than they are for you as a band parent.
So that's good to know, because again, my question would have been, like, how do you face a kid again confronting you to say, why are we doing this differently? We did this last year. Why are we changing it? Like, so yeah, to face how to handle that as your clientele, to how to answer to them. But if you're saying that that's not a problem for you, which I think is interesting, only because when we talk about the difference in culture between band and other activities, I don't know that I would say the same. I really feel like maybe a coach of a sports team might face pushback from a player who doesn't agree with the decision.
Oh, band directors face pushback.
Okay.
Not from kids.
But that's my point.
They get it from parents.
That's fair. No,
so,
that's fair.
Have you've been around the band a lot. Have you ever seen a band kid be willfully defiant to our band director?
Willfully defiant?
I'm not saying kids don't make bad choices, but
probably not willfully, no.
No.
Not that I could think of.
Have you ever seen a child be inappropriate in their interactions with their band director?
No, I have not.
Have you ever seen a child be contrarian in a way that is mean-spirited and purposeful?
I can't think of any examples of that, no.
No. So to the parents who are listening, the child that your band director teaches is not the child that you parent.
Okay.
And the reason the child your band director teaches is so wonderful is because of the way you parent.
Look at that. You made them feel good. Look at that. Parents, you did such a good job that your band director doesn't have to deal with your kid being a pain in the behind, I will say, because we don't curse on this podcast.
So there are a lot of parents who are listening to this who are brand new to band camp.
Yes.
And I will say, I used to start every band camp meeting with parents. You're going to think I'm out of my ever-loving mind. But if you just give me until the first performance or the first competition, you're going to understand there's a method to this madness.
Gotcha.
So what are some lessons, if we have a first-time parent listening, and we do, parent who's never been through this experience, a parent who may have coached their child, a parent who may have watched their child perform with another arts organization, a choir or a dance theater, and they're about to enter into this experience called band camp. What advice would you give them?
What advice would I give them? I'm thinking I'll edit myself thinking less when the time comes. But
I like how you're going to edit yourself to think less.
Well, just more the pause. I think I could edit the pause out while I actually think of an answer, because you put me on the spot.
To think less.
Yeah. I'm so intuitive. I just want to look like I'm on the spot. You know what I'm saying?
That's called a lobotomy, Chris.
Oh, I don't think they do those anymore. Do they?
I wouldn't know.
I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
I didn't have enough to work with to take any away.
Okay, then. Well, then we've established that. I would say first and foremost, trust the process, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Trust the process.
That's huge, Chris.
Okay.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Even if you don't understand it, there's a reason for everything in band.
Trust the process. Only because going into, so again, I had no experience with marching band before my daughter, who's now going to be a junior this year. I had no experience with marching band.
But I want to come back to that.
Okay.
Trust the process applies to sophomore parents, junior parents.
100%. Yes.
Because this is my favorite thing. I just, kids would say to me every year that I just adored, but it's my senior year, Mr. Lang. Well, it's always someone's senior year.
Yeah, that's true.
And so if you're a parent and your band director makes a change, or you have a new band director,
right,
or you get a new assistant or a new guard tech or a new drum instructor or a new drill writer,
right,
repeat those three words.
Yeah, trust the process. Yeah, absolutely. So, and the reason why I say that is, again, not knowing anything about marching band myself, watching my daughter go through the process. I knew my daughter was a decently talented musician going into high school. I watched her perform in multiple ensembles and jazz band, play multiple instruments. I knew that was there already as a foundation. So I knew she could play the instrument. again, even though she switched from clarinet to sousaphone, which was a shock. Again, like I said, my daughter was the size of the sousaphone, just so
she doesn't
everybody
shy
knows.
away from a challenge.
No, not even a little bit. So I appreciate that about her. Now, but that's part of it. That, again, that shows the character that this culture builds, that this kid was willing to, with no hesitation, throw this thing over her shoulder that's the same size as her to say, I think I can handle this as part of this group.
It's the same size as a small engine block.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So trust the process, because again, once I finally, freshman year, I didn't participate in band camp. I didn't really do anything until we watched performances. And when performances started, it's hard to explain the feeling that you get when you first see it come together. To see these kids as this group perform this thing, and you see your kid out there playing this role that you've never seen them perform before. You've never seen them, I guess, perform something that cooperatively as a bigger group. But the outcome of either the music itself, the movement, just the showmanship, like everything that they accomplish has come together in 5 minutes on the field. It's overwhelming the first time. For me, it was. And it was, I didn't know she could do that. I wasn't aware that she was capable of pushing herself to carry this 30-pound instrument around the field, play it effectively, march on time, create these formations, play cooperatively, work with this group of people to create this vision of this thing. So for me, it was very, very overwhelming to just participate in and go. Again, I didn't know that she could do that, but this group of kids could do that.
Was there ever a time you didn't trust the process or didn't understand the process?
I would say not understand it, not in a way that I would have pushed back on it at all, but didn't understand it in terms of, again, that I think it helps me appreciate more now that I do, but it was more of, I don't know. It's just, I think it was more naivety why I didn't understand it, if that makes any sense.
But I will tell you, and I wouldn't call it trust the process, because I trust without question. We chose our school based on our band director.
Right.
But, with a 20-year gap between it, when I stood on a podium, now putting kids through the program, I had questions of why do we do it that way? Because I thought we would do it this way, or why is this the sequence, or why are we working with this arranger? And so, I think it's true of a seasoned professional as it is a seasoned parent, as it is a new parent. Trust
for different
process.
reasons. Yeah, for different reasons.
The other thing I think is important is understand to play the long game.
Okay.
That if you're expecting to see results after 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 8 days, if your kid doesn't come home at some point and say, you've got to be kidding me, I can't do that again, or today was brutal, or this is impossible, or then your band director's not pushing them hard enough.
Okay.
Because that's part of the job of band camp, is to push kids' boundaries, to push their level of comfort, and to push them to a point where they can work harder than they thought they could work. But I think, when you look at that you have to think about the long game.
Sure.
Is we're playing for November 15th. We're not playing for July 15th.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point. And I think that part of the trust the process is, I think the kids themselves, especially because it is an activity they spend so much time doing that's almost exhausting, right?
Almost?
Okay, sorry. It is exhausting to the point where when you pick your kid up after a rehearsal, after a practice, after a competition, whatever, they're not going to want to really have a nice talk about the experience.
Well, my kid didn't.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So you're going to have to trust the process a little bit, because I don't know that your kid is always going to be the best at communicating the process itself. So again, unless you decide to maybe go watch rehearsals and all that stuff, which I would encourage everybody to do, but I think that just drives that point that much further, is that the kid themselves may not be the best at communicating why the process looks the way that it does either. So you're really just going to have to sit back and enjoy it. But what you say is a good point. That first football game, when they perform at halftime, it's maybe one of 3 movements of the show. It's maybe 4 minutes long.
And it's bad.
So, okay, that's fair. It may not be great, but so you may think to yourself, we spent 120 hours for what? Right? But that's the point, is when we say trust the process, and the long game is a good point as well, because it's not about that first performance. This is still the very beginning and the foundation of what you will see later on, but don't be discouraged by that. And I remember last year sitting in the stands with my teenage son, trying to explain to him, oh no, see, this is an arcade show. See, this is actually a pinball thing. He said this, that's actually the pinball thing. These are flippers. Those things right there. Those are flippers. Anyway, so I remember explaining the show to him, and him go, oh yeah. Because again, it's so raw at the beginning. it doesn't represent what it will be. So that's a good point in terms of.
So advice number 1 is to trust the process.
Yes.
Advice number 2 is to play the long game.
Yes.
And advice number 3 that I think Chris and I would both share, and Chris models this more than any other person I know, is get involved.
Yeah.
Like if you don't understand, go volunteer to give out water at one rehearsal. You'll learn more in that 35 minutes you're standing there handing kids water.
Absolutely.
Than you will in any performance or any conversation with your child. Show up and help hand out uniforms. Show up and feed the bear.
Absolutely.
And I'll never forget, for those of you who know, I travel and this is what I do. And I work with, some really great groups. I'm very blessed and fortunate.
Yes.
But the very first week, I signed up to feed the bear regiment every day at band camp.
Yep.
And I was taking pictures as I'm, dumping macaroni on a plate and handing out Cane's chicken fingers and giving kids extra rolls and breaking all the rules.
Sure.
And all my clients were like, seriously, you're feeding the bear regiment? I'm like, I'm a band dad.
Yeah.
And rule number 1 of being a band parent is get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's the only way you're going to really see the impact that this activity has on these kids.
Yeah.
That the effect that having 50 caring adults, hear what I just said, not 5, not just the band director,
right.
Not the assistant, not
absolutely.
the text, having 50 caring adults around your child
yep.
does to help them grow, mature, and become the better person that this activity can help them become.
And I think that's where, band is a little bit more unique as well. Again, athletic teams maybe have boosters and whatnot, but you're not on the sidelines, right? You're not on the sidelines with the team, with the coaches.
You're not calling the plays.
No.
That would be like awkward.
I mean, Scott Legg is kind of Hall of Fame, flag football coach here, but it's different in that way because you can be more involved. Like you can spend that time with your kid. And maybe it's a little more, maybe you're not, side by side with them, but you almost do kind of feel like you're going through the experience with them, which helps you understand the experience more. It helps you understand your kid better. And again, that time goes so fast.
And that's the thing is, and it's tough to understand this, but if you're a new parent, you don't get involved to help the band. You don't get involved to help the band director. You don't get involved to help your kid. You get involved for selfish reasons.
I mean, yeah.
Because it's going to be an experience and you're going to get to see a side of your child, a side that's going to go by really fast.
It is.
In a way that you will never, ever, ever be able to experience again for the rest of their lives.
It's absolutely true.
And so parents, again, trust the process. Parents, again, play the long game. And parents, again, get involved, even if it's just handing out water, because witnessing the process of what those kids are doing will change your perspective on this activity for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Well, it'll give you that relatability that we don't have. Again, if you didn't do it yourself growing up, if you weren't a part of the activity, as a youth yourself, it helps close that gap for you. And it's changing. Could
the band be what it is without band camp? Yes or no, Chris?
I would find it hard to believe that you could.
Do you believe? I mean, we all have talked about the life-changing values and the life-changing lessons that band teaches. Could it occur without that immersive, intensive, sometimes borderline aggressive rehearsal schedule?
I don't think that you would be able to establish the culture as deeply as you do, as effectively as you do, in such a time frame without the way that it's done.
And I say this with complete respect to all the art forms. Music education is a magical place, whether it's band, whether it's choir, whether it's orchestra, whether it's guitar, whether it's jazz ensemble, whether it's concert band.
Right.
But I get the question a lot from non-marching band folks, whether it's a concert band director who doesn't have a marching band program or a choir director, an orchestra director. And they always say, how do I get that tight-knit bonding from my program that the marching band has? And I said, oh my God, that's so simple. Just take your kids outside 3 hours a day for the next 3 months.
Well, that's all. Sure.
Yeah, because it's like, how do I get the bonding of those who served in battle together? Well, sit in a foxhole and get shot at.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
You can't substitute the activity. And as insane as it is, as crazy it is, as it is borderline aggressive as it is necessary.
Yeah.
To achieve the learning lessons and the learning opportunities that this activity is known for. And you said it when we interviewed Miles Denny. You said, maybe you can coin the phrase even better. You said, it's sufficiently difficult enough to teach the lessons it needs to teach.
Yes. You said it much more eloquent than I said in that moment, but yes.
I think we find that about most things in life.
All right, folks, have your dictionaries ready. Season 2 is coming. We got a whole new batch of Scott vocabulary we're gonna have to keep up with. But
the question is, will there be a season 3?
Ooh, I mean, yeah. We're gonna. Who's left? Who hasn't listened to us yet? Antarctica. Where do we have to go?
We have South America. We haven't picked up a country in South America.
Doesn't make sense. How do we not have South America?
Muy bien, para.
Oh yeah, we learn Portuguese just so we can.
America de.
Oh my God, I lost my train of thought. What were we just talking about?
As we kind of
sorry. What I wanted to counterpoint just a little bit, meaning that. Because again, we have a growing presence on social media and social people love to share their opinions on social media. I also do want to identify that sometimes it is not for everyone. And that's just to be fair. We've seen comments from people that did not have the best experience or takeaway from marching band. So I think a lot of times when we have these conversations, we don't speak to what is outside of the norm. We speak to what we think is the bigger, better lesson for everyone as a whole. But I do want to acknowledge that there are people that may hear this and not be happy with us because we're again talking about marching band and the lessons that we learned. But, I don't think that should still discourage you, especially when you get to the point of being a parent, because as Scott said, that experience is different every single year. It can be different by director, by program, all of those things. So I only say that just to keep an open mind, because I do think if it is the right experience, there is literally nothing else like what marching band can do for your child. So again, I just want to acknowledge that point because I know we're going to probably hear some comments and there's going to be some people on social media that are be like, "Oh, marching band again." I mean, yeah, because it really is that impactful. It is that big of a deal, and just I don't know. It's the same idea of if you have one bad experience, do you turn your back on something, or knowing that there is still this amazing benefit, do you still keep an open mind to giving it?
Marching band is good for every child. That doesn't mean every child is good for marching band.
That's fair. Yeah.
Weightlifting is good for every child. Doesn't mean every child should be a weightlifter.
Understood.
You know, that experience is a valuable and life transforming experience, but that doesn't mean every child has to choose that experience. They can find other and different ways to have their life transformed.
Right. But if you're one of those people, that's where, again, I don't think you want to take away from other people who are still interested in it, or, you know what I mean? Like, just because your experience wasn't maybe what we're talking about right now, I think that doesn't mean that represents everybody's experience or opinion, if that makes any sense.
So as we record this, we've yet to finish our own child's camp. And I'm going to fast forward, Chris, to bring our perspective to band camp to a close, as you bring kids' perspectives and parents' perspective and the director's perspective, and you bring this band camp episode to life in a way that only you can. I want you to fast forward to that final night performance.
Okay.
And I believe it's July 15th, I believe, is the actual
Sounds
date.
about right.
8 o'clock, July 15th. And they will be bringing the band onto the field to do a final parent preview and a show reveal and a little bit of demonstration of what the kids have done over the past 112 hours, 50% of their season. What are you hoping to see and hear, not from the band, but from your daughter and from your son, who is now a first-time leader, and your son is a first-time marcher?
Yeah. From my daughter, I guess I do want to see the reflection of her leadership in her group. I want to kind of see, again, how that group operates, because I do feel like if she's the leader of it, if she's, again, setting the example for them, I feel like I can see that in them as well. I should be able to see that reflection. So I'm going to kind of be monitoring it. As somebody who was a leader and a manager in corporate environments for a long time, I know very much what it takes to run a good team and to be a good leader. And I believe she absolutely has that in her. So I'm just going to look at, I think like that's kind of how you do the temperature check for me is how did the people under her operate? So that's going to be her reflection for me. So I'm going to look at her team and I'm going to look at how they run and just kind of get a feeling for how I feel like, how band camp has been for her as a leader. And I'll probably hear about it otherwise, because my daughter is wonderful at actually having conversations and being open. I'm very blessed that, my daughter does communicate.
You'll have to let me know what that's like.
It's pretty special. I'm not going to lie. Well, I take a lot. I try not to take it for granted, because I do see, again, I do see a difference in her compared to other people. And I think that, I don't know that would have been the case freshman year, right? Like, I do think this is a development of her being in this culture, being in this environment, going through the process and now being a leader. once you get to that point, you yourself have to understand the benefit of it. Why else would you want that responsibility? Why else would you want to step up and lead another group of kids who probably in the past you've seen be a pain in the butt and be annoying and be obnoxious, right? Why would you want to step up and be a leader of those people unless you yourself are bought into, you get why this is important.
You see the bigger picture.
100%. So anyway, so I'm going to look at her group of people. I'm going to look at the sousaphones, and I'm going to assess them and kind of get an idea, I think, of how that experience has been for her. Not that makes her a good or bad leader, but I think that's what I'm going to probably, keep an eye on. And then for my stepson, again, who's going to be marching Impact, it's probably more of, again, just how I see him, I think, interacting with his peers, because this is his first forte, I guess, in especially battery. And battery in our school in particular is a pretty competitive group. We have pretty high standards within our battery. Yes. So I think that he's being thrown into the fire a little bit just because that group year after year has high expectations. They perform very well. They are recognized. And that's, again, not why we're doing it. But I think seeing that in him, I think is going to help me better understand how I will see his characteristics change as a result of participating in marching band. So right now, where I think he could maybe do better at responsibility over X, Y, and Z, I think once he takes on the responsibility again of what they're asking him to accomplish as a member of battery and what he's responsible for. And let's be honest, the battery is the rhythm of the band, right? They establish the heartbeat. They, ultimately you keep time. The drum major, I know, is giving a visual, but you're keeping time ultimately by what the battery is doing.
No one's watching the drum major, just to be clear.
Okay. Well, I don't disagree with you, but I don't want to degrade the drum majors because
I was a drum major, and don't get me wrong. Like, I got news for you though. If the drum major's at quarter note equals 110 and the drum line's at quarter note equals 120,
they can hear it.
The band's going with the drum line.
You're not wrong.
Every time.
You're not wrong.
But for me, I think what I'm looking forward to and hopeful of, I guess, my kid's in between years.
Yes.
He's not a first year marcher and he's not a leader.
Right.
Is I'm looking for him to not be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
To be able to go, oh, every day is not an assault of information to me. Of something new, a new way to stand, a new way to march, a new way to talk, a new way to play, a new way to walk. And that for him to go back with a sense of mastery. We talked about that. The first year is an assault of information. The second year, it's the mastery of that information.
Right.
The third year, it's the teaching of that information. The fourth year, it's the leading of that information. I'm looking for him to go back and not be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And to be able to feel like he's finding success where he was always chasing. Because that's the thing about being in a really competitive drumline is everyone's always better than you.
Gotcha.
And so you feel like you're the worst player and the worst marcher, and you know the least amount of people, and you have the least amount of information. But for him to go back and not to be in that position to find success, I think is going to be something I'm gonna really look for.
That's a good point. And I guess we'll see, because you did already mention this, but we already know that the way our band is going to be structured this year in the band camp and the way they're going to do band camp is going to be very different, which I believe is probably going to make the process more efficient. But again, if you're a 14, 15-year-old and you kind of know, okay, I went through it this way, I survived it that way, now I can do it again and be better, but now we're going to switch it all up again on you. I wonder how that's going to go for them. I wonder how they'll feel about that. Will they feel better about the changes, or is it just going to be that much more because we're doing it entirely different than we did before? You know what I mean? I
think, a lot of that just goes towards the constant evolution of this art form. It's always going to be different.
Yeah.
But I also think, if band directors weren't band directors, they'd probably be used car salesmen.
Okay.
Because they can sell a group of kids on any vision.
Gotcha.
That's part of being the Pied Piper and drawing kids into this activity.
Well, and it goes back to trust the process, right? Yeah. Ultimately, we can make all these changes. We can change the way we're presenting it to you. We're going to change the way we're asking you to do this. But if you trust the process, again, knowing that as of, the middle of August, it's going to be a little bit rough, but hang in there, because by the time we get to November, it'll be good.
So parents, don't forget, trust the process, play the long game, and get involved.
Join the cult.
I'm Scott Lang. He's
Chris Flynn.
And we're the
Band Dads. Folks, as always, we want you to communicate with us. We want to hear about your experiences. Band camp itself, again, is one of those things, almost like when we talked about money. It can be one of those things that can be kind of divisive. Some people like band camp, some people don't. Some people understand it, some people don't. So reach out to us. Tell us your tale of band camp, your experience with it. Send us an email, feedback@banddadspodcast.com. We'd like to hear your stories about band camp, your experience, your kids' experience, whether it be good or bad. Just tell us your stories, and we can share those things. And we may do some off episodes sharing some of those stories as well. Reach out to us on social media. Come follow us on TikTok. We have a lot of great conversations and good clips and a lot of activity happening on TikTok currently. Join us. We do have Instagram. We do have Facebook, so you can join us on those platforms as well. YouTube is going to continue to be a platform where we upload video content. Again, if you've already heard the episode, we provide video versions of the episode, which almost are a whole brand new shiny experience for you to experience the podcast all over again. So come join us on YouTube. Check us out there as well. You know, we talked about modeling a little bit. So I want you to know that, Scott, that this Bandcamp episode is my chance to show you how you've modeled for me, because this is my Smithsonian, just so you know. This is going to get me next to Scott Lang in the back of the warehouse on the corner shelf.
About That's 4 miles away from Pennsylvania.
That's what you've modeled for me. That's right. That's where we're going.
I can teach you how to set that bar low like no one you've ever met. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, folks. To stay up to date with the Band Dads podcast, visit our website, banddadspodcast.com. Want to communicate with the Band Dads? Send an email to feedback@banddadspodcast.com. The Band Dads podcast is a 5 Deuce Media production. For more information, visit 5deucemedia.com. That's numeral 5deucemedia.com. For more information on Scott Lang leadership and solutions for music education, visit scottlang.net.